guys, this is the Ekron Writer here, welcoming you to the finale of Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks Part 2. Last time, Kung Lao was defeated by Motaro and fatally wounded until Jax intervened and defeated him. And Kung Lao was warped by Raiden, who barely managed to take him to the Jinsei chamber for him to recover. Unfortunately, due to Shao Kahn's merge with Outworld, the Jinsei pretty much dried up. So, Kung Lao was unable to recover from his fatal wound from his own hat. Meanwhile, Liu Kang was determined to defeat Shao Kahn after his friends encouraged him to do so that he could save both realms. But this is it, guys. The finale of Shaolin Monks Part 2. The first book in the series. So, let's get this started. Alright, continuation 11. The finale. After Liu Kang absorbed the souls from Nightwolf's greenlit tomahawk, the combatants heard a low monstrous growl. Jax could have sworn it belonged to a lion, but it only turned out to be his latest prey, greatly wounded. Shiva just shoved some of the heroes aside as she stepped in and actually offered Nightwolf to use his magic to reduce Motaro into a simpleton, she said. Both warriors just conjured as much energy as they could before they simultaneously unleashed them onto the horse-like body. By the time the blinding light cleared, the mighty general wasn't obliterated, but rather as if his vessel shrunk in length. Instead of having a quadrupedal body, his forelegs were reduced by half, even his vessel and his tail shrinking them to nearly the same size as the Shao Kahn. Who's the inferior species now, Motaro? Remembering the lethal fight with Kahn back in Outworld, Liu Kang chose to stick with the thick red and black vest, the same one he wore during some of his strenuous training exercises, as well as his durable gauntlets that were rumored to be keepsakes from the great Kung Lao. The combatants watched Liu Kang ascend the last stairwell to the topmost floor of Khan's fortress under a ginormous archway. There he beheld the terrifying display of a very familiar arena. Liu Kang noticed he arrived at the pit. However, it was a lot more spacious than the previous two he encountered. The mass of the chamber filled him with tension as he stood on a narrow bridge, only 3 feet wide and several feet in length, with short spikes protruding from the sides. Like the gargoyle statues in the corners along with Khan's small throne just ahead, they lit up in an eerie and placid lime green, as if not all the doomed souls had left the castle. 2 other monstrous sculptures were carved in the far wall, each lighting up in spots while the souls illuminated like tiny torches. The scale of Khan's last stand was so astronomical that it almost made Liu's stomach lurch. He couldn't bear to look below the fatal arena he was about to meet his possible demise in. His eyes gazed around the hellish place, reassured that his close friend Kung Lao didn't have to die here nor endure the nightmare. It was unusually warm compared to the other pits, as this one wasn't outside in the fresh air. Yaw! A wide metallic hammer slammed onto the bridge and Liu leapt just milliseconds before it made contact. With a backflip, the champion merely escaped from Shao Kahn's wrath. You have come, champion! You must be eager to end your own life in this fine chamber by my design. You've ended the lives of so many innocents in Earthrealm and Outworld. You even killed Kung Lao. On the contrary, feeble mortal, it was my elite general Motaro who has slaughtered both the former champion and that sleazy celebrity. No matter what those fleas, Earthrealm and Outworld has already been rendered dead and powerless like your precious Thunder God. Once I'm finished with you, The 2 realms will be conquered like the weak kingdom, Edenia. All realms shall bow down to me. We'll never bow down to you, you bastard! Liu Kang powered up his pyrokinesis, and simultaneously so did the souls within him. His body had some green and orange outlining thanks to the souls inside Nightwolf's tomahawk. Yeah, it's still going. These had empowered the monk with more strength. You've gained more power, I see. More than when we have met. Khan was somehow enthralled facing a formidable opponent. It will be honorable to eliminate such a promising foe. Show me what you can do, champion! Beckoned him to come over, but all Liu did was greet the conqueror with a powerful kick or two. Khan fired a green orb from one of the souls he absorbed. It hit Liu Kang dead center. Fired again, but the hero was prepared as he took a running start and leapt over it. Thanks to the momentum he just gained, Liu outmaneuvered Khan by jumping over him and hit him in the helmet. This only backed him a few feet away. Then the Overlord lunged at him with an upper shadow charge. But Liu Kang avoided it as he ducked. He then performed an uppercut which sent Khan back onto the bridge. His temper was getting the best of him as he let out another green fireball, then a shadow charge in which Liu blocked. It caused minimal damage, but he wasn't stunned. The armor he wore may have cushioned the blow. Again, Liu aimed for his head as he leapt over the green fireball, and the momentum went faster. He jumped over Khan, even missing his upward charge. Liu ducked from another green spear and evaded another air charge with ease. Once more Khan was outmaneuvered before Liu was able to perform rapid punches and kicks, then an uppercut. The Emperor wasn't done yet, and he was about to send his opponent flying. However, he was too quick when he ducked and sent him striking to the bridge again. Khan was a little dazed, both from the impact and his opponent confusing him, and Liu closed the distance with a flying kick straight toward his bare chest. For a few moments, Khan was injured and held it, but his overzealousness began to consume him. He would never want to lose his life nor his never-ending conquest of that low-class monkey from the primitive Earthrealm. After an intimidating roar, Khan closed in with a charge, but Liu was expecting it and performed a direct uppercut to his chin. He finally went all full assault, and his hammer weakened the monk, but he was just too flexible, avoiding another green fireball. Khan lunged his hammer, but the monk blocked it thanks to the ancient durable gauntlets. It left minimal impact on his hands. As if it was nothing, Liu leapt over his charge and closed in with some rapid punches and kicks. Khan copied his strategy by blocking his advances, then unleashed his hammer during a bicycle kick. Thanks to the excessive energy from Nightwolf's souls, they still gave Liu some energy and resilience despite the ongoing pain in his legs. The champion was still slowly rising after a barrage of Khan's muscular charges. For once, Liu's energy was beginning to dissipate. All he could do was keep aiming for Khan's head, as with each fighter they'd become dizzy and disoriented, open for an attack. He kept on this strategy as he leapt over his green fireballs, over his head, and made a few blows that were blocked. Khan countered with another charge, then Liu recovered and repeated the process, jumping over Khan's energy sphere and on top of the crown with the agility of a frog. Khan let out a sledgehammer, which made Liu back away, but he just ran up and over. He made a few blows, then Khan countered again with a charge and an airborne kick to which Liu ducked and made an uppercut counter. However, Khan was still on the bridge. If he could just knock him off. Both warriors felt their endurance fading, but Liu's determination never faltered. The Shaolin leapt over his fireballs and directly in front, blinding the opponent, so he wasn't prepared for Liu's rapid blows. One of the Emperor's charges made a mark, but Liu was still resilient and nimble. Apparently agility was all it took to dominate over Khan's brute strength. His hammer just wasn't enough to back off the fiery monk. He continued to hop over Khan's sphere, ducked from his ear charge as Liu unleashed a streak of his low dragon fire, avoided a punch, another charge, and countered another by his high dragon fire directly into Khan's midsection. They were dead center at the pit bridge, but Liu conjured all his might, including the excessive energy from the empowering souls. Just then, flashbacks entered his mind of Kung Lao, his brother Chan, slewed by Shang Tsung, the victories over the Outworld Trio, and the destruction of the two doomed realms, before he made a very remarkable uppercut sending Khan flying off. The heavy gravity engulfed the hapless Emperor just several feet down. His roars were heard as he sharply descended into the abyss where a series of gigantic, rapidly spinning spikes greeted him. His armored body was not enough to protect him from the sheer brutality as both his body and soul were instantaneously shredded by them. Liu could have sworn he heard the spikes slice up the conqueror like cattle, with the ear-shrieking blades, almost as gruesome like Kung Lao's hat, slewing his prey. Liu just stood there, stunned and still, like those endless stone monstrosities. What he didn't see were the blades slowing to a crawl moments after they spliced through Khan, as if time was stopping them, before they screeched to a halt. "Fatality!" Liu Kang declared, hardly creeped out by the devastating bloody sight leagues below his perch. His victory was also seen from the Sky Temple as Raiden and Asgarth watched the Earth revive itself from all of Khan's corruption and massive destruction by his extermination squads. Both Earthrealm and Outworld started to repair themselves. The stormy clouds let up. The skies were clearing. The million streaks of green souls were flying around, returning to the empty vessels, which resulted in Lao being revived and no longer cursed. The trio suddenly noticed him taking in a few breaths. Aiko couldn't help but gasp as she watched him regain life, and after a few inhales, she couldn't help but caress his cheek with a giddy smile. She then kissed him on the forehead, and Raiden knew that from that moment on, their love finally became official. The skies began to brighten all over the world, aside from the clear night sky overlooking the city that never slept. At least not sleeping very easily from all the devastating shit New York endured, let alone all of Earthrealm. The surviving heroes were astonished in how quickly everything became peaceful. Moments later, the Thunder God noticed his sacred temple also lighting up. The Jinsei has been restored as it brightened to its normal pale blue hue. The sun even broke through the dark overcast, shining on and into the ethereal place. The resulting illumination made Kung Lao's eyes flutter. He turned his head and saw Aiko's opaque face laying over his blurry vision. By the time it cleared, he couldn't help but smile up at her. "Hi, Kung Lao." He couldn't help but repeat her words and expression. His grin suddenly faded as he recollected his thoughts. Did he do it? Did Liu Kang finally annihilated Shao Kahn? Yes. He decimated the evil emperor at last. And this time, it is for good since he was revived once by a cursed amulet. However, there was no saving him this time. The deadly fans at the bowels of the hellish pit chamber obliterated his body and soul instantaneously. Thank the Elder Gods. Did I reverse my curse? Indeed, you have. Your curse was broken by your temporary death. You shall be free from the shackles of immortality. Aiko and the monk broke with a grin. Then hers had fallen. But what about Liu Kang? He won, and so he still has to endure that curse. This was a rough revelation for his best friend, sharing the great Kung Lao's fate as champion. Only Liu won thrice. He is still mortal. All they did was sulk. Back inside the scaling pit, Liu was still stunned over his victory and Khan's malicious death. He just couldn't believe he was champion for three times in a row, let alone saving the two cursed realms. He silently could have sworn the back wall began to shift, wondering if the abrupt, intimidating statues had moved somewhat. He almost lost his balance when the narrow bridge jiggled beneath his feet. That was when he knew the castle will fall in a matter of seconds. He immediately turned tail and ran through the enormous arch to the lower floors. Every section where was once a green soul sparkling turned to a corrosive black green. But the abrupt corrodes didn't face the escaping monk as he stormed down the first stairwell before the left gargoyle caved in like a weak paper cup. He headed straight to the balcony and his comrades just began to leave. They only wished Kung Lao, or at least Raiden, was with them so they'd be teleported out within a moment's notice. He spotted the massive hole from earlier and dropped straight atop of the spiked rubble from the demolished soul chamber. Still going? Yeah. He nearly lost his balance, let alone worried on having his boots be protruded by the leftover spikes. He was able to regain his footing and took a leap of faith off the dangerous pile. The landing was nearly too much for the monk, but he still pushed himself forward, despite the excessive perspiration and rapid heartbeats. He headed right and wound up at the unholy temple. He barely avoided the debris and shielded his face from the shattered glass of the many tinted windows and the sudden combustions from the toppled rows of candles. The flames were hardly an issue, since he was born conjuring them himself. He wasn't out of the doomed foundation while he saw most of it crumble ahead of him. He went back a few inches and performed his rapid bicycle kick, which barely had enough distance as he clutched to a loose edge of granite. He regained his footing, and the same piece started to break away. He nearly had enough time pushing himself up and leaping from the falling ledge onto more sturdier ground. His own nimble and blinding maneuvers can rival that of any monk or any Earthling. He was nearly home free, but his adrenaline was failing him from the previous lethal battle. He finally wound up the lava pits and hesitated. His keen sight scanned for Smoke's imprisonment, but the chains were gone. Reassured, he pressed on out to the dark golden clearing. But Liu, as well as the escaped heroes, saw a massive wall of debris immediately trap the champion, as if Kahn planned it to happen at that moment. Switching Smoke to the Shao Kahn's shoulders. Jax and Sub-Zero came to the tough pile, but no matter how hard they tried, the wall never budged. They even scattered as they noticed a whoosh of air from above, when a large piece of the tower descended. They grew hopeless, as did Liu Kang. He tried with all his might, punching, kicking, and pulling the debris away, but to no avail. Exasperated, Liu couldn't help but gaze into the air. Was this the demise of Earthrealm's chosen? Is this what Kahn plotted all along? He moped as he shut his eyes, praying for a miracle until some neon red light shone through his eyelids. Following the glow, a rip suddenly appeared. Never minding where it lead, he took it. He just tripped before cool air hit him, and noticed he was on more intact concrete. His friends came and greeted him. Everyone was free. They huddled around him, even Jax, who ecstatically slapped him on his irritated shoulder. "How many lives you got, man?" Everyone gazed onto the monstrous fortress, finally collapsing into oblivion from crown to base. They were all so glad that both Kahn and his stronghold were no more. Unbelievably, so were Sindel and Shiva. Liu wondered where Smoke was, though Sub-Zero shown him hung over his back. Nightwolf hoped he'd restart his electrocuted circuits, especially without his hidden cavern base to compensate. Katana then broke the silence. "It's over. It's finally over. Sharad and the countless victims can rest in peace now." The Shao Kahn nor the former queen weren't faced by his demise at all. Back inside the Jinsei chamber, Raiden, Asgarth, Aiko, and Kung Lao were just as stunned as the other warriors. The couple looked as if they were staring into space, wondering what transpired, before they turned and grinned at each other. Their faces were the best sights they'd seen since before the invasion started. They leaned in until they heard steps on some puddles. With his muscles still stiff, Lau abruptly rose, seeing his best friend standing before him. The monks reunited with smiles and a tight manly embrace, even smacking their backs. They didn't mind their soaked bodies, with the former from the Jinsei and the latter by his tumultuous escape. They were just glad to see each other, as if it felt like days. Well done, champion. Earthrealm and Outworld have been spared once more. Thanks to you overthrowing Shao Kahn, you have freed them both after living in terror for many eons. Thus peace shall reign supreme for a time. Liu Kang, you're still cursed. You've won 3 tournaments now. To his surprise, the warrior wasn't disappointed. If anything, he just felt more optimistic. Me? I can deal with this. What? I think you're taking this too well. I can endure this. I still got another 50 years or so left in me, right? I'm still mortal. The two grew puzzled, worried as if Liu lost his mind. Perhaps he suffered too many blows to the head by Khan's last battle. I will work things out with the Elder Gods, since Earthrealm has been proven time and again that it is a strong and refined world as of now. They shall be able to negotiate easier. Maybe he should go through the same deathly occurrence as Lau had. No! The Elder Gods had set the rules for the tournaments. I am certain there shall be a better way to resolve the eternal and ageless curse. Since Earthrealm has been growing in strength and thriving, it has made an alliance with other realms. Edenia shall be in peace. Aren't you going to join us, Kung Lao? Maybe later. I feel I still need to rest here a little longer. I'll stay with him, if you don't mind. He just nodded his assent. Liu left, wishing he'd eventually change his mind, but Lao still felt unsure, as did the cardiokinetic. You look nervous. Oh, Raiden, I just feel this isn't quite the end. We may have won over Shao Kahn, just as before, but we wouldn't have peace for long. Kahn had been revived after we destroyed him, and I could have sworn I noticed Shang Tsung earlier. If he's been sent to the Netherrealm, and if we see the 2 other monsters Aiko and I saw... The god laid a hand on his shoulder. Not now, Kung Lao. You should take in your victories while they last, instead of constantly living with dread. It would only invite further angst. After all, your nephew still needs you. For now, you may rest here. Just do not let your anxieties overwhelm you. Now, Lao nodded, nearly forgetting about Kung Jin. Then Raiden watched over Earthrealm once more while Asgarth finally returned to the ruins of Edenia without fear nor bewilderment. The weight left the monk fatigued. Aiko watched him sit as he rubbed his aching back. She was certainly glad her loved one hadn't succumbed to the revenant curse as of yet, nor passed away for good and was given a second chance curse-free. They finally had an opportunity to do the unthinkable, as they finally kissed each other passionately, before the both of them slumbered. I just can't kill off Motoro. Yeah, he deserved it for assassinating Johnny and killing off my main man Kung Lao, but still, he's one of my favorite villains as well as one of the creepiest combatants ever conceived. As scary as he is, that's what made him so fascinating. However, I was disappointed Motoro was cursed by the Shokan in Armageddon. Thus, his current fate has vengeance for the Shokan, and how Shao Kahn always favors the centaurs over them. And don't get me started with the reboot. After all, as the corrupt Raiden once said, There are fates worse than death. Just as what happened to Bane losing his gains in Batman and Robin. And there are the songs for that. And there's the song for that. During the escape. Blah, blah, blah. There's that. In Fort Snake's episode depicting Kung Lao in ways to potentially stated that Liu Kang obtained both his headband and gauntlets that were passed down from his so-called distant cousin's ancestor, as well as keepsakes. Particularly won them during the events of the reboot, even though he wore the headband in many games. I thought it was a great idea highlighted there. Finally, Lao's relationship has been sealed in stone with Aiko. I can't help it, much like Rick Wheeler, he meant so much to me ever since the Let's Play. Especially when Kung Lao was the main focus. Sometimes I wish that were like Waluigi and I connect personally. That never happened. And there's that fallout. Damn it, Billiam. It showed them to have a more tender side, and I feel terrible that Lao remained single throughout the series, as well as being distant from Kung Jin. With that heart meld, it's about time they finally connected. And I'm gonna start the epilogue. After a sufficient rest that seemed to stretch for several hours, Kung Lao and Aiko finally rose and walked out of the Sky Temple following the glorious sunset. It was astonishing they hardly noticed each other beginning to hold hands. Before they knew it, their mentor Raiden offered to transport them back to the Wuxi Academy. It was actually silent, hardly any bustling activity till they saw Shaolin monks rise up from the open hatch that led to the Dragon Grotto. Amongst the gathering crowd was the Tai Kung Jin, who called and ran up to his uncle ecstatic to see him and Aiko, safe and sound. Lao knelt and tightly embraced him. He was glad to see him. Jin was glad to see Aiko too, and the monks were willing to have the cardiokinetic be trained and to join their ranks. They weren't expecting a certain outsider visit the Shaolin grounds. Nightwolf volunteered to stay at the academy, functioning as the monk's technical assistant and advancing the compound itself. His kind wasn't thrilled on his high levels of intellect, as they feared he has evolved and become more like the snobby foreigners. Aiko made the offer for him to stay. Nightwolf was grateful that the Order of Light supported practices for the Great Spirit, who obviously turned out to be Raiden aside from worshipping the Elder Gods. It never would have come at a better time since Smoke was having difficulty functioning with his defective armor. Parts of it had to be surgically removed, the implants had to be remodeled. It took a few weeks till Smoke was ripe again thanks to the Jinsei in the grotto. 70% of his armor was discarded. Nightwolf offered to replace them. Smoke be the next Iron Man of Mortal Kombat, Aiko exaggerated. He had the ability on switching his cyborg components with the human, even possessing newer honing missiles and a rocket pack beneath his feet, allowing him to fly. He was ready to venture with his Muay Pintail, I can't pronounce it, with Kuai Liang. However, there were a confession he had to make. Never had the chance to state this, but as Smoke was teleporting Sector into the air, he felt before he self-destructed, he had some intel by a tiny microchip. However, he was unable to analyze it due to the constant battles. Thanks to Nightwolf, Smoke was able to compute it. It was Quan Chi that killed Scorpion's family and murdered all members of the Shirai Ryu. Kuai couldn't remember the sorcerer well, on account he was blinded by the gem of Tetsuri several months ago, but his name sounded familiar since his brother Bihan was involved. Aiko was determined to join the White Lotus Society and remain by her significant other Kung Lao. He, Jin, Nightwolf, Lu's grandfather, and Raiden were great mentors, even training her cardiokinesis and the Ankylosaurus animality. She may not desire to be at the same levels as Lao nor Lu, though she still felt needed at joining the Order of Light and defending Earthrealm. It was just the perfect place and time for her. Got into the monk's culture, they reconnected. She never had any means to go back to her dystopian future, being decimated by the Revenants and Raiden's control, much to her. It was only out of Raiden's control anyway. Kung Lao didn't mind taking up Liu Kang's slack, as the monk volunteered to assist Katana, Sindel, and their new cohorts, attaining the lost kingdom of Edenia. It was through good deeds and compassion that warned of Katana. Queen Sindel finally restored her place as the benevolent queen at the throne. To go so far, never wanted to get involved in filthy business with Outworlders. Shiva was anointed as her personal bodyguard, and Khan was out of the picture, and Motaro cursed. She had little to no angst. Even the esteemed knight Asgarth was anointed as the royal guard. Sonya and Jax had their chance to mourn over the demise of Johnny Cage. They took a brief respite in Los Angeles before they returned to the Special Forces. In light of the recent invasion, they were reinstated under the condition there were inclinations of other warring realms outside of Outworld, counting the Wrathful Centaurs. The Simoleon War was still transpiring as was the hunt for the disbanded Black Dragons. Aiko felt bad on having the pair leave the team. Stryker wasn't affected much, resuming his average duties as a riot control officer patrolling the New York streets. He was thrilled on being normal grounds again, although a certain someone holding a pair of lethal hook swords had been looking out for him in the dead of night and underneath the suburbs. Peace was finally returning to Earthrealm and Edenia, although Kung Lao still had angst. There was something brewing at the heart of Earth, just underneath the combatants' feet. At the New York streets, construction workers were removing rubble from Khan's destroyed fortress. They've yet to notice the infinitesimal red spot in the pavement. That tiny rip led straight to hell, where the ominous sorcerers Quan Chi and Shang Tsung stood within the fiery pits amongst the endless armies of undead legions, while a tall necromancer with blue skin and rainbow robes rose. The hellspawn roared as they worshipped their fallen monarch. I'm sure you all know what that is. And there are the songs for that. I want to give special thanks to several people and things that motivated me. 616 Entertainment, Cannonball, Line Through Time, Wasted Potential, Relic Waluigi, Before the Fallout, Greatest Downfall by Underdog, the MK Crypt, and Ant-Man 7 on the aesthetics of Mortal Kombat 3. I would also give shoutouts to the first film, Annihilation, Defenders of the Realm, Shaolin Monks. As stated, this wasn't just the continuation nor retelling of 3, but also the finality to it, and the underappreciated miniseries. Yeah, it should be a miniseries. Story itself just ended one episode less. So this may be leading to a follow-up of Mortal Kombat 4, but I won't count on it. It's my first Fallout with the Juggernaut, but I still wrote it. And can't wait to show you that. It would not be an easy task. If only there should be a sort of fan remake for that, then it might be reconsidered. Until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing off. And I'm so glad I got the 50 subscribers special done. Thank you guys. I love all of you. Even those that I had a fallout with. So, wow. The first book is finally done. And I can't wait to do Shinnok's Uprising. Sometime after Christmas when I do Mortal Kombat Deception on the fanfic. So this is the Ecron Writer signing out, and I'll see you all later.